Hello, everyone. Welcome. We are about to get started. Please make sure you guys share out the live. Salam, salam, everyone. We are going to be live today with Sam Stein. So please make sure you guys like the live, share the live, join the team, and we will get started here shortly. Salam Jamila, salam Ish, salam everyone that's coming in. Naya, salam Ghazawi, welcome, welcome, welcome. Inshallah, we will get started soon. Very excited for our live today. We'll try to build the room up, inshallah, and we will get started from there. Salam, John. Again, if you're coming in, we do have a guest today with us on the live. And this will be a very important live, inshallah. So please make sure to share it out. We'll get everyone here and we'll get started shortly. And we will be having a Q&A session at the end. If anyone wants to have any questions, please make sure you let me know. And we will get as many questions in as possible, inshallah. I hope everyone's doing well today. Ramadan is just around the corner. Well, let me see here. Oops. Salam, salam, Akhlam, Graybird. Graybird, you're not a settler, right? We're going to be speaking on settler violence today. So this is the kind of main topic that we will be talking about today and covering, settler violence in the West Bank. And this will be live from the West Bank, inshallah. So please make sure you guys join and share. Let me see here. Let me bring up one of my mods.
Hello.
Hello, Ahlam. If you could just take over for a minute, I just have to listen to something real quick.
Yeah, no problem.
Salam, Dr. Anasiba, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah. Hi guys. Good morning, everyone. We're gonna be talking to someone in the West Bank, so prepare yourselves with your chaz. Okay, say Mashallah, Chief Hala. I want to see a lot of chaz flying around while Taz is on mute and she can't fight me on this. Okay. But how's everyone doing? I feel like share the live out more. I feel like we should definitely have more shares, Wallah. Hi guys. Oh my gosh, you guys are so sweet. Oh, okay. Somebody block NS. I didn't even have my coffee yet. Well, I'm like, yeah. I say halak because like for a guy, but like for a girl, I say halich. I don't know, whatever. But oh yeah, Taz is back, guys. Everybody behave, be on your best behavior. Please share out the live right now. Like and share, tap tap tap. I
Oh
wasn't telling
no,
him
did
to
I
speak
get
with the chat.
occupied by the chair?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did actually.
Guys, if you're in the Discords as well, please share it out in the Discords so everybody is aware of the live. And we'll get started very, very soon within the next 5 minutes, inshallah.
Inshallah. Wait, so this guy, he's in the West Bank?
Yes, he
Oh
is.
wow.
He is well, he is part of the group, and I'll let everybody know, Rabbis for Human Rights. He's not a rabbi, but he's part of that group. They are anti-Zionist, anti-occupation, anti-Zionism, anti-Israel, basically. And they do something where it's they help protect against settler violence in the West Bank, as well as during Sheikh Jarrah. They are the ones, the groups that protest out in front of the homes.
Mhm.
Yes, he is also part of those groups as well.
Oh wow. Okay.
So inshallah,
Inshallah. That's exciting.
yes, they call it protective presence activism. So we will be discussing all of that inshallah, and he will be showing us, we will be starting off inshallah in khair inshallah. This is hello, yes.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yes.
Oh.
You should say wa alaikum salam when I say that.
Yeah, not to we don't return it to زبالة,
Hmm.
What does that mean?
زبل.
Oh, okay. I could teach you more about Hasbara than this guy can.
Connor, there will be a Q&A session at the end if you would like to ask any questions. Right now, this is not the time. Yes, so guys, please, as we wait for our guest to join, we inshallah will have a Q&A possibly if anybody wants to come up. Maybe Zionists, we'll see. But yeah, we'll get
This is
started
definitely
here
going to
soon.
trigger them.
Yes, you know, they Mark yesterday, Mark said all settlers are very peaceful. And actually Sam was in the live listening. So he was actually laughing at that. So yeah, we'll definitely be speaking on that. We'll be starting off as well from it'll be showing homes that were destroyed in the village in the West Bank by the IDF. So inshallah, we will be starting here very soon. It is very cold there, so please keep the families and our Palestinian brothers and sisters in Gaza in your prayers. It is very, very cold in Palestine right now, so it's very hard on them. And then we'll get started
About the
here soon.
babies in Gaza.
Yes, the ones that
Haram.
were unalive due to hypothermia recently.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Allah
And,
yarhamham.
yes. And then my mods, just mute. Please don't bring anybody up. I didn't take anybody's mods away today just because I didn't have time to figure all of that out. So just please
Oh, so
mute
if you didn't
unless
have time, can you give me mine back?
you have it.
No, not full access.
Oh, okay.
Thanks. I won't
Dang,
do
that's
anything though.
crazy.
I'm good.
Salam, Palestini. Salam, everyone. We're just waiting on our guest, inshallah, to join us, and we will get started. Let me just check if they are in the live. Is it here? Thank you all for being here. I appreciate you. Inshallah, this will be an educational live. And thank you for everybody that was here during the cultural night. Wallah, the Zionists watched the cultural night. I don't know if you saw.
Yes,
Salam,
and you know
salam,
what?
Palestini.
Do you remember your first live? Not the first live, but like the first like
The first ever
event?
live, like the, yeah.
Yeah. That's I remember that was when there was the Thiab, the lady from the Thiab
Yes,
Mahal. Yeah, I
yes.
remember I was there. Like, and I remember the Abu Chnafa guy too.
Yep, he was
And
there,
last
yeah.
time he was arguing about the cha and ka.
Yes, he said it was knefa. Just saying.
It's
All
okay.
right,
Sometimes I don't
we're
need to
just
hear it. Well, that's
waiting.
okay.
Please make sure you guys like the live, share the live, join the team if you have not. If you want to help protect the live with the subs or any meet the gift goal, that would be amazing. Let me just check one more time to see, make sure our guest is all good to go. So just give me a
And guys, we can get the shares up. Just hold down the screen and share it out. And again, if you're in any of the Discord, oh, let me share it in the Discord.
And if you guys do want to come up and ask a question or want to be up on the live while he's here, please let me know. So my mods, if you see somebody say, I have a question, or I want to be on the live, just let me know so I can bring them up, because a lot of people boost and I don't know who wants to come up and who doesn't. Yes, Pen?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I
Okay.
can hear you.
So yeah, I just want to say that God bless Israel, and Israel belongs to the Jewish people. Palestinians don't.
You are in the right live. I'm very happy that you have found us. Please stay tuned so you can listen to our guest speaker today.
Yeah, they're definitely gonna get triggered today. I'm excited.
Oh man. Hello, Salam. Hello?
Hi, John.
Awesome.
Hello, how are you? Sorry, I didn't
Alhamdulillah, how
realize
are
I
you?
was brought
Salam.
up. I
Oh,
was
I don't know. Are you
Hello.
boosting?
I was boosting, but it's okay.
Yeah, you can drop me after it starts because you know how I get. I forget what question I was gonna ask.
So
But I'm coming
maybe
up for now.
maybe we should give some kind of background on who's coming up and where's he from and what's his perspective.
I think you'll
Yes,
do it,
I
no?
will
Or no?
start to do that, inshallah. I think he's here. I'm just trying to find him. So, oh, okay, he is here. All right, guys, please, if you do want to be on the panel, anybody here want to be on the panel, just let me know so I can have you up. So if you do, Ahlam, John, Sajida, Didi, Philistini. Otherwise, I will drop you guys. And if you guys want to boost, that's great. For my mods, if you do see somebody say they have a question and want to be up, just tag me or message me. But please do not bring anybody up. And we'll get started. So I'm going to drop you guys and we'll get started. All right, everyone, welcome, welcome. Let me bring up our guest. All right, Sam, if you can just accept the camera and then we will start. Amazing, amazing. Welcome, Sam. I will get started here. Please, again, everyone, if you can like the live, share the live, and as well protect it. And inshallah, we will get started. If you are wanting to be on the panel, please just tag me or message me. I don't want to bring anybody up if you're boosting. And then we'll go from there. So we have Sam. We don't see you, Sam, so whenever you're ready.
Okay. Do you see me now?
Perfect. Yes. Okay, everyone. So Sam is a Jewish writer and protective presence activist living in Al Kheir, Masafer Yatta, near Hebron, AlKhalil. He currently works as a field coordinator for Rabbis for Human Rights. And welcome, Sam. I know we kind of switched our layout today because we wanted to start off with the questions, but I wanted to first start off for you to show us. You are currently in the West Bank in AlKhalil, in Masafer Yatta, just outside of Hebron. Could you show us where you are right now, and also the damage of some of the homes that that resulted because of the IDF and maybe the settler raids as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So, like you said, I'm in Masafer Yatta in the Hebron district, specifically in a village called Al Kheir, and you can see right behind me. This is a home that was demolished about a week ago. I think it was on Tuesday or Wednesday last week. There was a kitchen and a few bedrooms for a family in the building. It's the third week in a row that there have been demolitions in the broader region of Masafer Yatta, or I should say, last week was the second week there were demolitions in a different village yesterday, and this is also the Umm Al Kheir since last summer.
And just for everybody to see, because I already see some comments from Zionists saying this is not a home, it's all metal. Could you explain the village? It is a Bedouin village, is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. It's a Bedouin village. It's located in what is considered Area C of the West Bank, as per the Oslo Accords, which means that everything is under full Israeli control, including sort of bureaucratic civil issues like building permits and urban planning. And because of that, 98% of Palestinian requests for building permits are rejected. And besides for how incredibly insensitive it is to say, oh, that's not a home for a million different reasons, the homes here are kind of made with the knowledge that they can get demolished at the drop of a hat. That is how these people have to live.
Oh, wow. I wanted to because I know before you go inside and before the night, is there anything that you want to show us specifically when if you can maybe show us more of the village and the homes that were demolished? I don't know if you can flip the camera or not, but just to show us how this Bedouin village looks like and how close is the settlement to the village? Is it pretty close? Because I know it does get raided quite often.
Yeah, so that's a great question, and that's something that's really important to highlight, and I'll turn my camera around in a second. I'm trying to kind of show the village without kind of accidentally putting people on camera that might not want to be. A lot of the people here are pretty
Yeah,
private.
absolutely.
But I can turn my camera around and I'll show the settlement, which really is uniquely right on top of the village. The sun is causing a glare that might make it a little hard to see, but just 1 second. And yeah, there we go. So here's a sort of community center that the village has set up. There's a playground, there's an office for the adults with some computers. I'll try and get close enough. And you see those bigger buildings off in the distance. There's a fence that the sun is kind of glaring out. That's a settlement called Carmel that was established in 1981, I think. Really right by. They even put up an Israeli flag that they put a few Israeli flags kind of really right in the village as clear signal and sort of act of aggression. And yeah, because like the proximity of the settlement has really caused some massive problems, to say the least.
How often does it get raided by settlers?
Full on raids have thankfully not been it was hilarious because so common. There were a few really horrific raids right shortly after October 7th and at beginning of Israel's bombardment and the ongoing genocide. Soldiers, kind of settlers in their military uniform, raided the village in the middle of the night and attacked and tied up several of the adults of the community and threatened them that if they don't swear fealty and loyalty to Israel, that they would kill them. More recently, there's kind of constant, I would say smaller invasions. A nearby outpost has some settlers that constantly graze their sheep on the private land of the village. And now I'm just entering my home in the village. Harassing the villagers, causing financial loss that way by, turning on the village's water pipe and wasting all of it and things like that. And then just a few weeks ago, there was a olive grove started by the settlement right behind a villager's house, basically in his backyard and right behind the community center, which is really boxing the entire village in. So that's kind of the characteristic of the settlement and how things look here. It's not so much these like massive invasions the way that you imagine of a lot of people storming the place with guns. It's just kind of constant harassment in these very particular
I think your
limits
connection,
that just kind of do
is a
away.
little bit. Oh, I think your connection kind of froze there. There we go. I think it's better. Oh, yeah, I think
Okay,
it's better
how's
now.
that? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's better.
Great.
Okay, so I'm gonna
Yeah,
go
so
into. Oh, it's froze again.
hold on.
And just for people to know, this village. It is a village in the hills, and it's a Bedouin village. So yes, the homes, like he mentioned, they are smaller homes, and they are homes where they built it in the mindset of this will get demolished by the IDF occupation forces. So keep that in mind. These are okay, so I'm gonna start with my question, Sam, and then I will, whoever wants to ask questions, I'll also pass that on. So more about you.
Related,
You
let
grew
me
up in a
know.
far right. You grew up in a
Yeah.
far right Zionist environment in Long Island, New York, but eventually moved away from those beliefs. Can you share the key moments or experiences that led you to question and ultimately reject the views you were raised with?
Definitely, yeah. So to kind of add context to that, um, I spent a ton of time here as a kid, coming with my family, visiting on vacation, visiting cousins and family members, very, very much like in a Zionist lens. And the two major things that really helped me reevaluate things and kind of open up my thinking, um, apart from kind of a broader, more liberal mindset that I had in general growing up, in contrast to like the right wing environment I was growing up on all political issues. Um, One was just, pretty simply a really good friend of mine who grew up in the exact same way. Also, kind of was just always intellectually curious and never really took narratives for granted and just did a lot of reading and research and really very quickly um, unlearned what we were raised on and unlearned that Zionist narrative and challenged me a lot on it. And that, just kind of got the ball rolling more than anything. And something that's important to mention and impossible to kind of tell the story without mentioning is that when I was 18, I spent a gap year here and was actually in an illegal settlement in the West Bank, and I had no idea what that meant at the time. I didn't know the difference between the West Bank and 48, what's recognized as Israel. It was all the same thing to me. And it was in a settlement called Efrat, which is right next to Bethlehem. And then I got to college, and towards the end of my time in college, this Palestinian young man, someone about my age in college, came and spoke to the Jewish Culture Club on campus. And he was from Bethlehem, and that really resonated with me as being I remember naively thinking that we were neighbors. And he mentioned almost completely in passing, it wasn't even like the, point of his presentation or anything, just needing to go through all of this insane bureaucracy to get a permit to go from the West Bank to Jordan, to fly from Jordan to the US. And that was the only way he could get to college in the US because Palestinians are pretty much full stop banned from flying out of Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv. And I remember thinking, kind of very bluntly, oh, that's apartheid. Like, I hopped on a plane and just acted like landed and walked around like I owned the place. I didn't think about any of this stuff, like checkpoints, walls, like those were all, even if I saw them, they didn't mean anything to me.
Okay, that's a very unique experience because it's something that is very difficult to question everything that you have been raised up knowing and believing. But have you ever faced threats or backlash from Israeli authorities or settlers for your views?
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't say it's for my views so much as my actions, honestly. I think that a lot of people kind of have more anti-occupation, anti-Zionist, more left-wing views that um, will get harassed a little online or something like that, but that'll be the end of it. Whereas being here, concretely engaging in activism and solidarity work, it's really impossible not to. I've been harassed and attacked by soldiers. I've had rocks thrown at me by settlers. A few months ago, a soldier choked me and tried to steal my phone. Shortly after October 7th, the settler did steal my phone. I was attacked by settlers in May of 2021, and then when I went to report it to the police, I was arrested and banned from the West Bank for 2 weeks. And that's just an
You were
occupation.
banned. You were banned from
Yeah,
the West Bank.
yeah, it's actually pretty standard. Anytime anyone, particularly left wing activists, are arrested in the West Bank in this line of work, 90% of the time, what happens is that they're brought into the police station, kind of interrogated and gaslit and harassed for however long. And then, especially with these drummed up bullshit charges, kind of offered a plea bargain almost of sign this paper, you won't have to come into a court date or anything, and you'll be banned from the West Bank for 2 weeks and just go to Jerusalem, go to Tel Aviv, wherever it is. And it's happened to me once. It's happened to some friends of mine like dozens of times.
Now, the difference if it was a Palestinian, they would be jailed for God knows how long, detained for put in a detention center. But when it comes to being Jewish, is that the privilege that you would say you would have because the Jewish supremacy state of Israel, and where if it was a Palestinian that was to stand in front of a soldier or try to protest or protect their home or fight against a settler, they would be taken, jailed for God knows how many years, and you would not.
Yeah, absolutely. Right away, they would be subject to a different legal system. They would be subject to the Israeli military court system and legal system, whereas I or any Israeli citizen or any international would be subject to the kind of civil Israeli court system the same way anyone would be if they committed some petty crime in Tel Aviv or Haifa or wherever it is. So right away, the disparity in apartheid and inequality is a clear, entrenched legal matter. It's not this hiding, thing. It's very, very visible. And to kind of point to the Jewish supremacy, if a left wing, let's say non Jewish European activist is arrested doing this work, there's a very good chance that they'll get deported. Where if, let's say, an American or European or whatever it is, Jewish American with no Israeli citizenship is arrested in this line of work, it's very, very unlikely, as far as I can tell, unheard of, that they'll be deported, even though they're on the same legal footing as that non-Jewish person. There's just like in practice, that's never the way it'll work out.
Okay. Now, we hear many Zionists and Israelis claim that the IDF stops the settlers from raids on like Palestinian villages. Could you describe in detail the settler raids on the Palestinian villages that you've seen and whether or not the IDF stops these raids or stands idle as they're happening?
Yeah, absolutely. The short answer is they don't. I remember a few years ago, I was in a nearby village called Susia, and this older woman was out shepherding, and settlers came and started like slinging rocks at her with kind of like those old-fashioned like King David slingshots. And there was this soldier right there not doing anything. We had videos of the whole thing where you can see the soldier, you can see the settlers not doing anything. A few months ago, I was joining Palestinians in the northern region of the West Bank near Ramallah for their olive harvest, and a bunch of mass settlers came and started attacking people. And none of them were stopped or arrested. There were soldiers there. They saw everything. None of the settlers were arrested. A colleague and fellow activist of mine was arrested and, kind of like I mentioned before, was banned for the West Bank for 2 weeks. Palestinians had their car confiscated. So, it's like almost just, not only do they not stop it, they use it as an excuse to arrest activists and Palestinians. And those are just two examples off the top of my head that I was like there for. There are thousands of other examples that I know of through friends or even just through like incredibly blatant documentation in media. There was a very prominent one in right around the Jewish holiday of Purim in 2023. So this is like March, April of 2023. There was a big settler attack on a town called Hawara. Somebody was killed. There were cars lit on fire, and there were viral videos that even went viral in Israeli society and really did wake some people up, of soldiers right there not doing anything while all of this was happening.
And I know just a few days ago, there was a settler raid on a home nearby where you are. I think it was in the same village, Susia, where they raided a home, burned the Palestinian home, and put graffiti saying "Revenge for the Bibas children" and "Death to Arabs," if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. That wasn't in Susia, but that was in Masafer Yatta, very close to here.
Do you see, because we always hear, this is something that we always speak about, how the IDF does not stop them. You hear Zionists say, oh yeah, of course they'll get arrested or they'll get charged and the IDF, but this proves otherwise. So please, everyone know that the settlers get away with everything with their raids, with unaliving the Palestinians, with burning their homes, their villages, their crops. They get away with it all. And my final question is, what is one message you wish more people, particularly in the West, understood about Palestine?
Yeah, definitely. I think just how not that mystical and complicated it is. It's something that a lot of people, I think this is changing, thankfully, but I think for a long time a lot of people were just kind of, oh, it's complicated, and like back away from it. And it's so much more important for especially Westerners, when this is propped up by American and European money, to not do that. And it's not complicated. There are complications and idiosyncrasies to everything, but one side is oppressing the other. That's what's very clear. And, to just kind of do the research, see that, and to know that this is a system. It's not some one of a kind mystical issue. It follows the exact same methods of oppression that these systems have always followed. It follows the same playbook. You can look at other settler colonial projects and states, and it looks the same. It uses the same rules and tactics, and it's not this brand new thing. And we have, which also means that we have history to look at of how do we deal with this? How do we stop this? How do we pursue justice?
Okay, and then one more question, because I do see like some Zionists in the chat saying, "Oh my gosh, you are Jewish. What a shame." What would you respond to these kind of messages that where people say you're self-hating Jew or it's a shame that you're Jewish?
Yeah. I try not to because it's such nonsense to me, but just like I grew up Orthodox. I went to Jewish day school for my entire life. I was in a dual curriculum school where I had, English, math, history, whatever, and then the rest of the time I had Jewish studies. From 7:30 to 6 p.m. at night, I was getting home. It was pitch black by the time I got home in the winter. I lived in a settlement for a year and, did it all. I can trace my family back to massive, massive rabbis on my dad's side of the family. I'm as Jewish as it gets. My brother is fond of saying that if anybody converted, it was thousands of years ago. And it's just the most obvious thing in the world to me. It's always been the most obvious thing in the world to me, even before my kind of political awakening, that Judaism does not have to equal anti-Palestinian racism or Islamophobia or anything like that. I do this, you know, I was instilled with a deep, deep, deep investment in this land and in this issue. And now I've just seen what's actually happening and taking that investment and doing what I think is right. So this is kind of, I like to say that I drank the Kool-Aid and put my own ingredients in it. This is what you get. This is your fault.
Okay, thank you very much, Sam. I'm going to open the panel, the questions for the panelists. And if we could do one question each, inshallah, that would be great. And then there is a Zionist on the panel. We will kind of go from there and see how that goes. Go ahead, Dee.
Sam, thank you so much for agreeing to the interview, and thank you for your words and your bravery. Here's my question. I know that you mentioned that you did live in Israel proper, or at least you've gone there several times during, when they give you the West Bank. I'm going to call it the West Bank timeout from what you had mentioned before. What's the difference that you see in treatment there to Israelis, to 48 Palestinians, versus Palestinians to you, a former kind of, I guess, Israeli Jew? Like, what's the difference in treatment that you see?
Yeah, definitely. That's a great question. It's hard to pinpoint, honestly, because even in Israel in 48, like the society's so segregated that most of the time it doesn't come up. You know, the schools are separated, the towns and neighborhoods and cities are separated. There's certain sort of melting pots, but mostly you just Israelis and Palestinians don't interact all that much. You
Is there
hear,
any rhetoric that perhaps that like you're used to hearing? We had somebody actually tell us that they would consistently say, "Well, you're Arab," to the Palestinians. Is that like a common thing?
yeah,
Kind of
definitely.
saying,
In the Israeli discourse, the word Palestinian is rarely used, especially when referring to 48 Palestinians. They're just Arab. Even of like West Bank Palestinians that have PAIDs, a lot of more right wing people in media will still erase that identity and call them Arab. And I would say the norm is to call 48 Palestinians just Arab.
Wow, interesting. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dee, for your question. We'll go to Ahlam.
Hi, nice to meet you, and thank you for being here. I'm just curious. So, all right, so like I'll preface the question, right? A lot of Palestinians, as you know, are angry, upset, hurt when we see settlers, when we see Israelis with their, privilege and how they feel like they're better than us, how we're treated in comparison to them. So is your activism contingent on Palestinian support, or would you do this regardless of whether you had or did not have Palestinian support?
Yeah, it's definitely contingent on Palestinian support. That feels like such an axiomatic value of this activism, of this work, that I'm here because the people that I'm working with want me to be, and have been like very clear that they want and appreciate this form of activism and solidarity. And if they didn't, I'm not trying to just like shove myself into people's lives where I'm not wanted, then that would be the end of it.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, Ahlam. We'll go to Moody.
Assalamu alaikum and hello Sam. I appreciate you for what you do. I wanted to ask you um is so there's this common picture. Actually, I want to ask you a different question than that. You personally, like with all of the threats physically, verbally, and everything that entails, what makes you continue to come back and put yourself at risk on a day-to-day basis alongside Palestinians?
Yeah, definitely. That's hard one. It's an important question. Thank you. I think, and I have kind of comrades in activism that they would give different answers than me, but I would say that part of it is just habit so forming. I've been doing this for years, and you just hit the point where this is what you do. This is my life. This is what I do, and I have ways of kind of physically and emotionally processing some of these stuff that I'm subjected to, which always have to mention is a tiny percentage of what Palestinians are subjected to. In a lot of ways, it's the answer is kind of the opposite of the question. People ask me, "How do you keep doing this?" And I'm just like, "It's the only thing I can do." Last year, after October 7th, for a lot of different kind of converging reasons that I won't really get into right now, I really wasn't doing this protective presence activism to the same extent that I had become used to and that I want to. I was a little, but not as much as I would have liked. And I hated it. I was going crazy. I was in Jerusalem, just watching my friends suffer from far, feeling helpless and useless. And I started doing this work out of a broader recognizing of an injustice happening and wanting to do what I could to fight against it. And that's still true, obviously, but now also there's just a point where it's like, this is happening to my friends. I'm seeing my friends suffer under this regime and under this violence, and I want to be there for them.
That's amazing. Thank you. Taj, if it's okay, can I come back? I have another question
You
later.
can ask it. It's okay. Go ahead.
Thank you. So there's this common image that's painted of like Palestinians can spot out a Jew from a mile away and they hate them, right? And they're constantly attacking people because of that. Have you ever experienced that?
No, not at all. Like there's unfortunately an understandable mistrust, unfortunately, for Palestinians. If they meet somebody who's Jewish and for somebody who has Israeli citizenship, they will unfortunately have concerns that they're Zionist and that there's somebody who's like complicit in their oppression or active in their oppression. But I've never felt unsafe, and very quickly you see that like when you treat people with humanity and show that you respect their humanity, that is 99% of the time reciprocated. And whenever Palestinians find out what I do and who I am, they're kind of just a lot of times shocked, honestly, unfortunately, but incredibly receptive and kind and appreciative. And اسف انا مشروع
Oh.
One of the kids is trying to talk to me. That yeah.
Oh, مرحبا حبيبي كيفك؟
TNS.
يا احنا عاملين مقابلة هلا حبيبي. هلا كمان شوي بيجي معك. Does he want you to play?
No, I'm trying. There's a kind of sensitivity in the community of like having kids on
Yeah,
camera.
absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
he's
Yeah,
kind of
Habibi, come on.
bye.
Habibi. Okay, bye.
um,
Yeah, just for their safety, of
yeah,
course.
yeah, definitely. But that was a great kind of thrust into what my life looks like here and how much I do just feel like part of the community. And to answer to like kind of the last thing I would say about that question about my treatment about like the reception I received from Palestinians, and about like spotting a Jew a mile away. A funny thing is that like a lot of our notions of like what certain races and ethnicities look or act or sound like are completely constructed and made up and like don't really hold up on a case by case basis. And especially in certain, like if I'm in like Ramallah or Yatta or some other Palestinian city, a lot of times before I talk and they hear my accent, people just assume I'm another Palestinian. And then they hear my accent and they just ask where I'm from, and
Yeah, and
then
I just
kind of
want to
get to go
actually
down
say
from there.
something. Ahlam, she said it in the chat. She said the child, or I don't know what his name was, but he just answered Moody's question without even knowing the question. So absolutely, wow. That in itself, that interaction right there just kind of should have answered your question, Moody.
Yeah, definitely 100% did. And like I appreciate you, bro. Like from the bottom of my heart. Your genuineness is beautiful. No,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
thank you for the support.
Thank you, Taz.
Thank you, Moody. Of course, thank you. We'll go next to Pally Barbie.
Hello, Sam. Thank you for joining us. And honestly, thank you for your activism and what you do, on the ground there. I'm sure it's not as, easy as, people like to make it out to seem to be. So I guess my question to you is, like, as you're, as you're speaking up for the Palestinians and talking about what they're going through, are you seeing large amounts of increased violence against, you know, I guess against yourself, other Palestinians, and what is happening, especially after October 7th?
Yeah, 100%. Unfortunately, the situation is kind of here, just always constantly escalating because that's what the system is designed to do. And when all you have is a hammer, everything is a nail. So there's this constant thing of just like everything that happens right away, you kind of immediately think on the wavelength of how is this going to make things worse for Palestinians? October 7th happened, and then Israel responded with its genocide. And in the West Bank, there were massive escalations, massive, really unparalleled spikes in settler violence to the point that for a while, us privileged Israeli and international activists weren't sure that our presence offered the protection it historically has and is supposed to. Thankfully, we learned that that's not true, but that's a different story, just to kind of give an idea of how intense the escalation was. And there were massive restrictions on Palestinian freedom of movement. Every single Palestinian that had a permit to work inside 48 lost that permit and couldn't get into work. And there were crazy checkpoints and lockdowns. And then fast forward a year and a half, and there's a ceasefire and a hostage exchange, and this thing that is a good thing that is bringing people home that everyone wants. And the immediate response in the West Bank is the exact same thing. It's a spike in settler violence in retaliation to this hostage exchange that they were against, and it's an addition of checkpoints and blockades and lockdowns and suppression of Palestinian freedom movement. So that's kind of just the reality for Palestinians. Everything makes things worse somehow. I would say for me personally, there's definitely been kind of a growing target on my back. I've been doing this work very locally for 5.5 years now, and in the past year and a half to 2 years, really started gaining a much more prominent platform for it on social media and through more formal writing. And the settlers hate that, and they know who I am. They know my name, and it really hasn't resulted in anything too bad yet, but it's definitely something I'm aware of. There's a clear targeting of me. They all know my name. They all kind of try and get in my face and scare me and drop little fun facts about me to show how much they're on to me. But keep it on.
Well, thank you so much. And, I hope you stay protected and, continue your activism, and you're doing amazing work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pally Barbara. And just for everybody to know, if you follow Sam on Instagram, you can follow all of his videos. You can see a lot of the videos with the settlers and the raids and the interaction. So make sure you guys follow him on Instagram. It's Sam_Avraham. And okay, we have a Zionist that would like to ask a question. We ask that you keep it respectful, Dan. Anything disrespectful or that is, not okay, we're going to be dropping you. So go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I appreciate that. My question is, you said a minute ago that they're on to you or they try to scare you or threaten you, but you're not scared of them. Who are they?
Mostly the settlers in the vicinity of the settlers in Masafer Yatta, the ones that I kind of end up interacting a lot. There is this absurdity that we all know each other by name, which gets very bizarre. But also the kind of state forces. There was a very clear stretch of time where it felt very clear that cops were targeting activist cars in general, not just mine, but it really felt like mine was under more scrutiny. So, activists are constantly getting pulled over by cops and getting stupid tickets or just whatever excuse they can find.
How do they treat you in the airport when you come to Israel?
Mostly it hasn't been an issue. I did have it wasn't in the airport, it was in the land crossing. I went to Egypt with my girlfriend in January, and on the way back in, we got stopped and kind of interrogated and questioned for I think 5 hours, and they asked me about my work and about some other stuff and all these kind of stupid questions. And then when they interrogated my girlfriend, everything they asked her was about me. It was about my work and if she knows about it and all this stuff.
But they let you in eventually.
Yeah.
Were they violent?
No.
No, good. So here's my question. Those are just questions that came up because of what I heard you say. But my question is this: I understand that you do travel in proper Israel quite a bit. You have family there, and you've been banned from the West Bank, so you've been in proper Israel. And you said that the Palestinians and the Israelis living in proper Israel don't mix too much. Did I understand correctly?
Yeah.
Okay, so are there any Palestinians working in Israeli hospitals or pharmacies or courthouses? Have you noticed any of those there, or they're banned from being there?
There are.
There are what?
There are Palestinians in Israel that, work in whatever institutions, hospital, pharmacy, whatever.
Even doctors? Even doctors?
Yeah.
Have you noticed any Palestinian lawyers or judges?
Judges, I don't think so. Not that I've noticed. Look, I'm sure they exist, but
Actually,
Is the condescension necessary, Dana?
No, I'm not condescending. I'm just trying to
South Africa
understand
also had judges and lawyers. What's your point?
what black judges during the apartheid. Are you sure?
Yes. And
Okay, I
doctors.
never. Excuse me.
Doctors. This isn't a debate. Ask your question.
Yeah. Anyhow, so I'll be more okay. I'll go more to the point. Where exactly, when you're in proper Israel, do you see the apartheid?
It looks different, honestly. It's more subtle. First of all, it's a nation state law that was passed in 2018, if I'm not mistaken, that really enshrined Jewish supremacy in the essence of the country. That was, arguably already entrenched, but whatever. And that has been cited as the backing for sort of bureaucratic decisions that slip under the radar because they're boring. But there was in the north, I forgot which year it was. This was on Adala's website. A school district that wouldn't offer buses to an Arab-speaking student, and they cited the nation-state law as to why they didn't have to or weren't willing to. And there's been 0 new Palestinian Arab municipalities built since the founding of the state of Israel. So you're like right off the bat, you see that until 66, Palestinians living in Israel is, not in the West Bank. The West Bank wasn't under Israeli control yet, lived under military law. They had certain liberties that West Bank Palestinians don't have today. They were able to vote in elections and run for Knesset, but they lived under lockdown and martial law, and that was clearly probably a model for the way that things would work in the West Bank. And kind of there's a lot of times this point of this deflection of like, oh well, Israel isn't apartheid, even if maybe the West Bank is, and those things aren't separatable from each other, especially when Israel is supplanting their citizens in the West Bank. When you have this massive settler project, of course, Palestinian citizens of Israel, 48 Palestinians, have overall better lives than West Bank Palestinians. They face much less state violence, but the fact that there is a system that is just tilted against them is incredibly clear.
So what you're
Thank you.
saying
Okay,
is,
thank you. Thank
Oh,
you,
sorry.
Dan, for your question. I think it was just we're gonna keep it one question. So thank you, Dan. We'll go next to Janine.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Sam, for being here, and thank you for your advocacy. I have it's like a couple of parts of a question. How long have you been there? How long have you been living within the West Bank?
In the West Bank, in this village, I've been here since September, just over 5 months.
But overall, how long have you been assimilated into Palestinian society, basically?
I would say, it gets fuzzy, but I've been living in the region for 5.5 years and really started doing this work right away. I would say it became much more intense and constant and integrated starting in 2021 when I did a program called Hinenu with the Center for Jewish Nonviolence, which brings international Jewish activists to live in Masafer Yatta for 3 months. And that was actually when I spent 3 months in Umm Al Kheir then 4 years ago in 2021. And that's why I built a very meaningful relationship with the community. And that was what,
So what would
among
you
other things, what
sorry.
got me to move back. Sorry, continue.
No, I'm sorry. So I'm pretty sure you've heard the rhetoric of how Palestinians indoctrinate their children. They use their children as human shields. The overwhelming dehumanization of Palestinians, especially over the course of the last 15 months. What do you say to those accusations? Have you witnessed mothers indoctrinating their children to hate Jewish people or to hate the Israelis, to want to unalive themselves in the name of unaliving Jews? Like this is the rhetoric that you hear from the majority of pro-Zionists. And so I'm asking, in your opinion, what do you say to that?
There are 2 different things that I say. The first is kind of just, no, that's not true. Quite frankly, the lived experience, like the violence that these kids are subjected to, is more than enough to radicalize them. They don't need any assistance from their parents or textbooks or whatever it is. And kind of more important, I think, is just that kind of anything you can point to, any problematic excerpt from a textbook or a kid's TV show or whatever it is, whether it exists or not. I can find a parallel in Israeli society, maybe one that's worse, maybe one that's not, and that's not really the point. That's kind of like doesn't really matter. The point isn't the moralistic character of these people that gets impossible to measure, and like I said, you can go back and forth on that forever. And that's not the point. These people are being deprived of their basic human rights, and quite frankly, even if every single Palestinian were anti-Semitic, they would still deserve equal rights. They would still deserve to not live under occupation. They would still deserve to be able to build homes that aren't going to be demolished and to have basic freedom of movement and to vote for the people that are actually controlling their lives. And that's kind of what the Iker, that's sorry, Hebrews living in. The essence of these struggle and of the issue is that one side has more power and is oppressing, and the other side has less power and is being oppressed.
Okay, and then if you were to look at the settler children and the way that they are raised, would you consider that indoctrination into hating Palestinians?
Yes, absolutely. Sometimes it's more subtle, sometimes it's more egregious. There are clips that I can show of more radical settlers saying insane things to their children, like really, really horrible things. I would say that, in my upbringing, there was an embedded Islamophobia and anti-Muslim, anti-Palestinian, anti-Arab racism that was also pretty egregious, but more subtle than the kind of things that I'm talking about.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Janine. We'll go to Angel.
Salam, you guys. Thank you for having me. Big, massive shout out to you, Taz, for hosting this live and talking about Masafer Yatta, which is actually one of my thingies that I really like to speak about. As for Sam, peace and blessings, Sam. I thought I heard you speak about the 80s. So I just wanted to ask if you can educate the room, because in opposition to international law, which prohibits the expulsion of the population, the Israeli army actually declared the area of Masafer Yatta as firing zone 918. Could you tell the audience what that is and how it affects the people who are living in the village? Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. That is like really, really important. So Al Kheir, where I live, is thankfully not in the firing zone. The firing zone is a pretty big swath of land, but doesn't cover the entire region. So Al Kheir is, mostly safe from that. Firing zone 918, as you kind of mentioned, in the 80s, when then future Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon was the Israeli Minister of Defense, declared a massive swath of land firing zone, a military training ground that they were going to use to simulate combat in Lebanon for military purposes there. A lot of military experts have said that that's ridiculous because the land here doesn't resemble the regions that they were supposedly training for in Lebanon. But basically, they said, oh, this is a firing zone. You can't live here. You need to leave. And they were, for a second, full on putting Palestinians on the backs of trucks and driving them out. And then the Israeli court system actually said, you can't do that. Bring them back. And we're going to figure out what to do with this. And then that court process happened until 2025. Until 2022, when the court gave a very damning ruling that basically gave the army complete jurisdiction and impunity to do whatever they saw fit in the firing zone. And the important thing to know is that an Israeli watchdog NGO that does really impressive work called Akavot, very worth looking into, uncovered documents from Ariel Sharon, making it very clear that the point of the firing zone was to kick out the Palestinians living there and, prep it for settlements and to create a kind of contiguous settlement block. Contiguity and connection is sort of the name of the game in the settler expansion project. So right away, this is a known thing. This is a Googleable fact that the firing zone was created to kick these people out of their homes. And to highlight the absurdity, there are settlements in the firing zone, and not a single one of them has been evicted. And they've even started creating their own kind of made-up, ridiculous bureaucracy to protect the settlements. So now these Palestinian communities have lived in what is now the firing zone for decades before the firing zone, and the firing zone is literally placed on top of them. And they're told they need to leave, and their homes are demolished. Since the aforementioned court case in 2022, there have been massive wave of home demolitions for Palestinians living in the firing zone. It's hard for activists to get in. Cars are confiscated. There's like a general legal precedent that like only the Palestinians who live there are allowed to be there, and anyone else isn't allowed to be there. But outposts have cropped up after the creation of the firing zone. You know, like nobody in the world denies that these communities, these outposts and settlements are 5, 10, maybe 20 years old. And then around them, the army has created what they've called the dry firing zone. Like, oh, it's in the firing zone, but we're not using it right now. So actually, this part's okay, and you can stay in it. So that's kind of just the constant mask off element of the ethnic cleansing that's happening in Masafer Yatta, and that is, you know, a case study for the rest of the West Bank.
Thank you
Thank
so much
you.
for answering my
Thank you
question.
so much, Angel, for your question. We'll just have, I know it's getting late by you, and I know it's really cold. So we'll have two more questions. We'll go, Dee again wanted to ask another question, and then we'll end with Alexander, who is a Zionist. I believe he's a rabbi. I'm not really sure what he is, but I know he has a record of assaulting Palestinians, I'm pretty sure. Go ahead, Dee.
So when you were speaking earlier, and Dan had asked the question about the crossing from Egypt, he'd asked you, had you, was it violent? Did you experience any violence? In like kind of the flip side, have you heard of Palestinians receiving, like getting violently hurt at the crossings, or seen it with your own eyes? Have you actually witnessed a difference between your treatment versus the treatment of the Palestinians at the crossings?
Not at the crossing particularly, but I would say that that's just baked into everything. You know, it's very clear the difference in treatment is obvious. West Palestinians use the crossing because only 20% of Israel is Palestinian citizens, and West Bank Palestinians and Palestinians in Gaza obviously can't use these crossings, so it doesn't really come up as much. I would say that the analogy for that is kind of checkpoints in the West Bank, and there the difference in treatment is, you know, plain as day, incredibly obvious. There are checkpoints that I drive through almost daily that I don't get stopped, I don't get looked at twice, I have a white face and Israeli license plates, and I get waved right through. Whereas anytime I've been driving with a Palestinian, you know, once I dropped off a Palestinian friend who had a permit to go into Israel to work, and then I needed to go through the checkpoint, and he wasn't even in the car with me anymore. But just because they saw me with a Palestinian, I got stopped and pulled over and searched and went through a metal detector and had literally my entire car kind of like opened and searched pretty thoroughly.
Wow, because a Palestinian was with you?
Yeah.
And you'd never had that before?
No.
And had you traveled to areas A and B as well, or?
Yeah.
You have. And what did you kind of see there, if you don't mind? And that's my last thing I saw. I'm sorry, I'm just very curious. I wanted to ask it from the chat.
I'll say that the area A is obviously its own whole spectrum. Every city is going to be different. I've been to a few different cities. I've been to Ramallah, I've been to Bethlehem. Their cities,
excuse me.
they have, you know, their own life and their own almost semblance of autonomy. Obviously not completely, but more than other areas of the West Bank. Israel is, at the end of the day, the party that has full control and can do whatever they want. Yeah, it's been meaningful to just see that element of life that I'm supposed to be completely blocked from, that element of Palestinian life that is supposed to be separate and hidden from me. And you see the checkpoint system that they deal with, you know, especially since October 7th. Like, every gate to the city of Yatta is just closed. There's like only been one entrance that's even usually open, and sometimes especially since the ceasefire, there are soldiers there 24/7 checking every single car. And sometimes there's a gate that's just closed, and it means, you know, go home, try again tomorrow. You're not entering or exiting the city until further notice. Yeah,
Yeah,
Wow.
that
either way,
sounds like
not the kind of
military rules for an
Excuse me,
area
Alexander.
filled with
We
terrorists.
are okay. I don't know if Alexander is able to contain himself and be able to ask a question without interrupting. Um, Clearly, I don't know, he's very triggered. He was in the comments speaking about you. So I don't know if you want to take his question or not, but that is up to you. But that will be the last question because I know it's getting late by you now and it is very, very cold. So it's up to you,
Um,
Sam.
yeah, I mean, I heard all I need to hear to know that it wasn't a good faith question. You know, just like terrorists are they're under military rule because they're terrorists, and that's just
Mm-hmm.
nonsense. You know, it's nonsense that's not worth dignifying with a response.
No, that
Okay,
wasn't
so
my question. That wasn't my.
it doesn't, we don't want to hear your question. That's exactly what the point is. So you, this is a respectable panel. We allow people that are able to come up and ask questions with respect, and you have continued to mute and or unmute and say very disgusting things. But anyways, thank you so much, Sam, for being with us today and for speaking against the settler violence and against the Israeli, you know, existence of the Zionist state. So I really, really appreciate you being with us. I just want everybody to please follow Sam on Instagram for Sam underscore Abraham. That is also his handle on TikTok as well. So please continue to follow up if you want to watch and see more of his videos with the settler raids as well as the work that they do there. Thank you so much, Sam, for being with us. I appreciate you so much. And we always end with Free Palestine.
Free Palestine. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Sam.